MRD cases. So I have around 6 cases. Let's see how time permits us to discuss those. So my idea is to cover at least 2 positive cases and 2 negative cases, so that with negative cases we can know what are the populations and how to make sure that it is not MRD. Positive cases a couple of cases I can show. So we'll just start. So what I'll do, I'll just delete the plots except okay. So these 3 are the regular plots what we draw. Now let's start with T-MRD analysis. So this is a case which has been sent for the MRD analysis, which is this is a case of TLL. Now the sample has been sent for MRD assessment. So as I discussed yesterday, the first plot will be, I suppose we can be a bit interactive. So what is the first plot?
CD7.
CD7. Okay. So I prefer CD7 as a gating marker than cyto CD3. The simple reason is, what are the reasons why I prefer CD7 or anyone? Which is preferred more? CD7. Yeah.
But less specific.
Mature.
Yeah. So CD7, though it is less specific for T cells, it is very sensitive. That is, it will cover entire T cell population. 1. Okay. Whereas cyto CD3 is very specific for T cells, but there is a chance that very early T cells which are yet to acquire cyto CD3 can be missed. Okay. And this occurs especially in ETP-ALL cases. Okay. So just to avoid that, I'm using the first initial gate with surface CD7. Okay, CD7. Right. So, and whenever you're drawing a gate for CD7, make sure you completely cover up all the populations. Okay. So I would like to take a bite of population which is negative to CD7. Okay. Just stop me if you have any doubts, or in yesterday's lecture, if you had any doubts, people who have seen it virtually, if you have any doubts, please let me know. So once this is done, what is the next plot? What is the next plot that has to be drawn?
CD3 versus CD7.
Perfect. So CD3, surface CD3 versus CD7. The idea behind this plot is to try to remove some mature T cells. Okay, so you know, as the cell T cells becomes mature, it acquires a moderate or bright surface CD3. So this population constitutes more of mature T cells, whereas this population constitutes some predominantly NK cell, and if there is a residual disease, there may be some immature T cells. Okay, now let's go. So I'll come to this population later, but initially let me analyze this particular population. Okay, so whenever you're drawing a gate, try to take some amount of dim CD3 with a gate like this. Okay. So as soon as I draw this gate, okay, you can find that the population which is bright, expressing bright CD7 lights up. Like as soon as I gate this population and a color is given to it, you can find there is a population which is getting highlighted and it is showing bright CD7. What is that population? What is likely this population? The population when I'm getting this particular area, CD7 is bright.
NK cells or
Yeah, it is likely NK cell population. Okay, those are NK cells, and you know NK cells normally express bright CD7. When compared to T cells, NK cells show much higher intensity of CD7 expression. Okay, and even your MRD can be like that. Even MRD will be CD7 bright. Okay, but so now let's see, is it because of NK cells or is it leukemic cells? Residual T leukemic cells. So let me give a color to this. I'll give some. Okay, now I need, so this population contains NK cells. Okay, so what I mean, the C gate is constituted by what all populations? So what all populations are there in this gate?
NK
Yes.
cells,
NK cells,
CDC,
a subset of CD7 expressing PDC,
then myeloblast, and also
myeloid blast, which is expressing dim CD7. Yes, that is there. And if there is a residual disease, obviously that you came to say something else. Anything else?
no.
Yeah. Okay, so those three, and if residual disease also can fall in this area. So now to discriminate NK cells, so I'm adding 1656, and to remove all non-T cell population which are expressing CD7, I'm adding a very specific marker for T cells, which is cyto CD3. And now let me get this particular population. Okay, so as soon as I get, I can find a population, 4 populations. One is NK cell population. So this is NK cell population. Okay. And then you have the non-T cell population, which was expressing CD7. So as discussed, it could be a subset of myeloid blast expressing dim CD7, as well as some PDCs which are showing CD7 expression. Okay. So this includes that. And then you have a population of TNK cells, okay, which is expressing cyto CD3 along with NK cell marker 1656. And more importantly, this particular population, which are T cells, which are showing a relatively dim CD3 or negative CD3. So if you want me to, among these 4 populations, this is the population which is more notorious to harbor the leukemic population. Okay. In case if the diagnostic phenotype, the blasts were expressing 56, now this complete area becomes very important for you to analyze. You cannot just exclude this saying TNK cells. Okay. Similarly, at the diagnostic point of view, if it is an ATP-ALL case, I will not draw a gate like this. I would love to I will draw a gate something like this, including a bit of cyto CD3 negative population. Okay, so this is how I would draw, or in fact, I could extend this gate a bit more. Okay. Yeah, any doubts?
So this blue population is just surface CD3. In the CD3, CD7, it's lying more that is near CD3 is dim. Usually,
see this particular area. I see that it is a part of that cluster. Okay, but still the gate is like we'll decide whether is this normal T cells or is it a population which is hidden here, which is leukemic T cells. Okay, we'll just explore that. But you can see that it's part of the T cell cluster. Okay, so more likely it should be normal T cells. Okay, but we'll just check that. We'll check that with subsequent plots. Okay, so once this plot is done, now I need to go for further plots like CD8 and CD5. Okay, now this population I'm just dropping here.
Sir, one doubt.
Sorry,
One doubt, sir.
yeah, please go ahead.
If after getting all CD7 positive cells, I
Hmm.
check them on surface CD3 versus cyto CD3, do I
Hmm.
lose anything? Because then I can simply take all cyto CD3 positive, surface CD3 negative, and then check them on 1656. Will
Can
I
you
be-
just, yeah, good. Can you just come again, please?
If I take all CD7 positive
Okay,
cells and
okay.
check them on cyto CD3 versus CD3 first,
Perfect.
and take only cyto CD3 positive, surface CD3 negative, because essentially that is my suspicious.
Yeah, you see, that is a good plot actually. Drawing surface CD3 versus cyto CD3 plot is very good, but this will be more sequential and relative because I've used even this plot. Anyhow, it will be a part
Okay.
of my plot. So what you mean to say is that where is the
My
population?
doubt is, do I miss on anything by doing this?
Yes, you may miss. I have seen some cases where you there is a chance of missing it. I'll
Okay.
tell you what now. Let me put the B gate here. Okay, so you're finding this particular population. Okay, so this particular population, and you directly start analysis with this population, excluding all other populations.
Like giving
Okay.
two colors, one which is dual positive, and the
Hmm.
other one which is negative for surface but positive for cyto.
Yeah, true, true.
And
See,
keep
initially
seeing-
during the beginning of analysis of TMRD, even I was using that. Okay, that becomes a very important plot, the cyto CD3 versus CD3 plot, because it on a quick view yesterday lecture I told you this. So these are some plots, and especially surface means side scatter versus CD34, and this particular plot CD3 versus cyto CD. It instantly gives you a population where you can check whether it is disease or not. Agreed. But I've used this, but I feel this is more
This is more robust.
robust. Okay, but still, this is a part of my analysis. Even I will have this plot in my analysis, but not upfront. First, I'll go very sequentially, and then I take other plots. So let's see how it goes.
Okay. And so this population which is membrane 3 positive and cyto negative, what is that?
You need to tell me that. You tell me, then I'll tell you.
Membrane positive and cyto negative.
What could be that? My understanding is that, see, you are doing a fixation and permeabilization
Cells
step.
haven't formed properly.
Yeah, exactly. This particular first you do surface. So this particular cells have taken surface CD3, and once you do fix and perm, this cell somehow escaped from cyto CD3 going inside them. So that is the reason why it's there. But
Yes.
we are not least bothered about this population. So nothing.
Sure, sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll just drop the C or the U population. Is it J population, right? So let's drop the J population. And you find that right. Okay, now we have a population which is CD38 negative and CD3 in a very good normal fashion. Okay, so if you want, you can just check with the singlet population where is the normal T cells are lying. So it's almost lying here. So you can see it is overlapping with normal T cells. So my interest will not directly fall on this population. Rather, I would try to explore more about this population, which is showing CD38 expression with a dim or negative CD5 expression. Okay, so this is the population which I would explore more. Let's give some color to it. Okay, so after this plot, we'll just go with other important plot, which is CD7 versus CD45. So this is as a single cluster. I'm not finding any population lying here. Okay. So if any population is lying in this area, which is CD7 bright, with slightly downregulated CD45, or even if it is bright CD45, that will be more interesting. But still, I'm not having such a population here. But what I'm finding is a population which is CD45 slightly dimmer, and it is CD7 also not moderate but dim positive. So let me get that. Though TMRD will commonly be CD7 bright or moderate, here is a population which is showing a bit of dim CD7 and 38, 45 also dim. So that I need to check. Okay, so now what is the next plot is almost like to confirm everything, you need to draw a CD4 versus CD8 plot. Right? Okay, right. So let's put this L population and check anything else. Okay, so we have CD5 and a CD4, sorry, CD4 and CD8, right? So this is the pattern. So you have 4, 8 and a double negative population. So I'm not finding anything suspicious as such because there is no like a restricted population. But let's check with M, whether M is of anything. Even M is showing the same pattern. Okay, you find CD4 expression, CD8 expression, and there is a population which is double negative and dim CD8. What is this population?
The immature TNK.
Yeah, yesterday I told you, right? This pattern you need to remember. This pattern you have to thoroughly remember. These are immature NK cells, okay, which are yet to acquire 1656. They are cyto CD3 positive. Okay, they are cyto CD3 positive but negative for 1656, so they fall here. They typically mimic like an MRD, and you need to be very careful of taking those cases. Okay, even when I'm applying the total population which are expressing CD38 and negative for 5, I can find this population. So these are nothing but immature NK cells. See, 38 positive and it is negative for 5. Okay, similarly you can find here. Okay, and these are normal T cells, 4 and 8. So normally when you're checking for expression of 4 and 8, if you find any population in this area, okay, as a cluster, not as few units, as a cluster, then this is disease. It's abnormal. And similarly, when you're making sure it's not immature NK cells or other populations, gamma delta or something, then you can confidently call as disease because here also the abnormal populations lie. So apart from the immature NK cells, so this is there and yeah.
Sir, how can we be confident that it is immature NK? Because MRDT also can be CD38 positive.
Yeah, but this pattern, it's very rare for you. See, if you're finding, if it is a residual leukemic blast, it will not show this pattern of negative for 4 and 8 and a dim CD8 only positive cells. This pattern of negative to dim will not be there. For CD8 will not most likely come in residual leukemic T cells. Okay, so it's about constellation of findings. You have this population, if I highlight it, see, you see this in every other TMRD analysis. You can find that CD38 is there, positive, 5 is negative, and it is 4 negative. In 8, it is appearing as a dim to negative population in 2 subsets or sometimes as a trial. And then if you go back and see 45 will be bright for that population. Okay, you see here 45 is bright. Okay, so it is likely NK cell population, immature NK cell population.
Immature NK cell will be 4 and 8 dual negative also, sir?
Yeah, it can be dual negative or it can show dim CD8. NK cells are more cytotoxic, right? So they can express CD8. Any other doubts with respect to this population?
Sir,
Sir,
BALL blast can be
sorry.
CD45 bright positive, no?
Sorry, BALL blast?
TALL blast can be CD45 bright. No?
Very, very, very rare. You mean to say B lymphoid, I mean BALL, right? BALL
Yes.
blast being CD45 bright is very rare. I have seen around some 1 or 2 cases which are CD45 bright, and even it was matching with the baseline diagnostic phenotype. Without diagnostic, if CD45 is negative or dim or even then CD45 getting CD45 bright in MRD, then I'd be very, very hesitant to call it as MRD. I would work with more markers and try to prove it's normal. I've reported some cases. It's in Twitter. If you want some, if anyone is in Twitter, you can see my cases. It's there. 2 cases of CD45 bright MRD, BALL MRD. Yeah. So there was one more question. Yes.
Sir, we have given black color to M population, right?
Yeah, true. I got this. Now you mean to say why CD45 is not bright? So
Yeah,
if there are,
not bright, even 7 is dimmer on them.
yeah, so could be some population, like but what I need, what I want you to give attention is like the pattern is not deranged. It is showing the same pattern. Okay. So I agree with your question. Even I found that, but still I am not much
Such
excited.
case, it will be very challenging, no, sir?
Sorry.
In such case, it will be challenging, no?
Yeah,
to
but
understand
look for this pattern. If you're getting, see, if it is residual cells, it will be homogeneously 8 positive or homogeneously 4 positive or homogeneously dim or homogeneously CD4 dim, or it will be double negative or it will be double positive. You will not have some amount of normal 4, some amount of normal 8, and 8 appearing in 2 subsets, like one is negative, one is dim. So this is more like a normal pattern. That's why I wanted to show you some normal cases. So if I drop this L population, it is almost as, yeah.
Sir, in the normal population, when they acquire 4 or 8, and there is some percentage, how can they be double negative also?
Sorry, come again. Sorry.
Once they have acquired 4 or 8, and it is a normal population, then why some population is still double negative?
That's what I said. See, the gate what we have drawn is not only pure T cells. It has some NK cells in it, and this could be NK cells. NK cells is part of your gate, right? You have included the NK cells into the gate, so they can show that. And some populations can be still TNK cells can be double negative, right? TNK cells can be double negative. So it's not like all the cells will show CD4 or CD8 or something. There could be some populations which can be double negative. This can't be gamma delta, or it less likely, because I have not taken a bright CD3 gate yet, because gamma delta tend to show bright CD3. Okay, so this could be some normal TNK cells and so on. So okay, immature TNK cells and so on. Okay, so it's not just pure T cells. These populations could be some NK cells within that gate. The gate what we have drawn. Okay. So now, any other doubts?
And 4-8 appear to be reversed, na, sir?
Marrow, it is reversed. I told you this.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Okay, in peripheral blood, you have the other way. In marrow, 8 appears more than 4. Okay. Now, this population is done. But as I said to you, never ignore any population. So we have analyzed these 2 populations. We are yet to find a good MRD. We have not found an MRD. Before you do this other panels, you just check with site scatter CD34. And if you find any population which is 34 positive, instantly you can call them as MRD. Okay. You need not have any other LIP. If you are sure that it is T cell population and it is expressing CD34, you can instantly call them as MRD. But most of the times, that is very rare. At least you may have small heterogeneous population which is 34 positive, and the majority of the cells are 34 negative. So this plot of site scatter CD34 haven't helped much. Okay, but still we have it in our panel, because some cases which are having a high disease burden, residual disease population greater than 1%, or beyond 5.5%, then they can show CD34 if they have exhibited CD34 at baseline. So it's just having as a part of it. But most of the times this LAP 34 positivity does not help. Okay, so there is no T cell population which is expressing, let me put B. Okay, so there is no this red color population. I told you, right? This there should be some compensation. So this is some population which is expressing some 34 in it. And if you can see, none of the cyto-CD3 cells are expressing that. It is a partly myeloid blast which are showing dim CD7 expression. Okay, if you see this, you can see some amount of brown population sitting here. If you want, I can just enlarge the events. So myeloid blast, a subset of myeloid blast can show CD7. Okay, you can see the expression is very dim. Okay, so let's go with the other populations now. So we have got another population here. Let's check that with 4 and 8. It is negative for CD38 and it is 5 moderately expressed. So most likely should be normal T cells. So what you can do, you can get them separately. Since you have finished this population, you can get this population now and you can check it out. MRD analysis always be very slow. Take your time. Don't be in a hurry. Okay, because you see the population across all the plots and try to explore every population. You should not miss anything. Okay, now if I put O in this, you can find that there is normal expression of 4 and 8. You don't have a good double negative population or a clustering anyway. Always see for clusters. Don't think. See, still there is some amount of populations which are showing this dim CD8, and this again NK cells, typically falling in the gate same way, right? So this population has nothing. So now we don't find anything in this J population. Okay. Now, if this case is expressing 56 in baseline, then I need to explore this population with the same plots. So now, as I did with J, now I need to put G here, check any population is showing 5 dim and CD38 moderate or dim, then gate it and see across 4 and 8 and see across 7 and 45 whether any LAP, that is 45 dim or 7 bright or any one of them. If it is present or both of them are present, then you need to check with 4 and 8 again. Okay, but here in this case, if 56 is not expressed in the baseline, so I'm not worried about this population. If you want, we can just check that. Okay, so it's likely NK cells. If the blasts are expressing 56 in the baseline, then you need to explore this population. No chance of escaping that. Okay, but since it's not expressing, I'm not checking this population because likely it is all NK cells. Now, once you finish with this population, don't conclude saying MRD is negative. Try to explore this particular population, which is showing bright CD3. Okay. Now you need to analyze in the same way. So if you want, you can just quickly check in 4 and 8. Okay, fairly okay. But still, if you see it in whole, you can miss a small MRD population which are restricted to 4 or double negative, or restricted to 4 or restricted to 8 or double positive. Okay, because it gets masked by this large population. So again, you check for any other LAP in this mature T cells. So just start with similarly with as you did for this particular population. Start with similar gates. For example, check with CD5 versus CD38. Okay. You're finding a population which is CD45. Sorry, CD5 is from a dim to negative, so and 38 moderate. Okay, likely these are all activated T cells, because you know when T cell gets activated, it expresses 38 and 5 may go down. Okay, so now once I get this, you can see that they are all predominantly 8 positive. Sometimes what happens when you see this pattern, you feel like, oh, there is no 4 and completely 8, and tend to call it as MRD. Remember, this is activated cells, and most likely these are cytotoxic T cells. Okay, which is expressing 38. You know, 38 is an activation marker for T cells, like HLA-DR. So when T cells are in activated state, they express CD38. And whenever they're expressing CD38, they may lose some markers like CD5. And the best way to check is C across 4 and 8. And you also check for the other marker, the other plot. That is, as we did for the other population, check with 7 and 45.
So, but 4 and 8 में 4 is absent, but you said
Sorry?
the activation 4 is lost in these cells.
It's not lost. See, this population, see, when you get a viral infection, okay, or viral infection or anything, the cells which gets activated is cytotoxic T cells. CD4 cells are cells which will wait for antigen to get presented to it.
Helper cell.
Okay, yeah, helper cells is always slow. But when you take CD8, they are the one which are readily in an activated state. And these are all activated cytotoxic T cells. They express CD38, and when they're expressing CD38, when T cells get activated, they may lose some surface markers, especially 5. Okay, so that is the reason. Now, the best way to check the other plot to check this is CD7 versus CD45. Okay, so Q is the population what we are studying. So I'll put Q here. You find it is completely CD7 positive and 45 is bright. In case when I'm applying this gate, if I find any population which is lying in this area, anywhere in this area, okay, now that will be my population of interest. I need to get alone that population and check across 4 and 8. Okay, so that will be a mature TLL, and that's how I approach for mature TLL MRD. Okay, and one of the plots was discussed earlier, this particular plot. Okay, before closing, always try to study this population. Make sure it is all NK cells, okay, as we saw, but just study this population also, because this is one plot which can directly give you an idea about the immature population and NK cells. Okay, you also need to study this population, so I'll just put it in K, right? So I'll put K. Yeah, K, and let's see with 56 and cyto CD3. Nothing is wrong. So we have already excluded the NK cells here. So I need to put the 7 gate B. So that's easy. Okay. Okay. Just check with 4 and CD8. You can see that similar pattern of NK cells, immature NK cells. Get it? This pattern. 2 laddus, one in the negative, double negative region, and one in the CD8 dim region, or a single population which is playing between negative and dim region. It is most with 38 positivity, moderate positivity, and 5 down-regulated. It is most likely NK cells. Always check this population in CD45 and 7. CD45 will be bright. Okay, if it is like that, then it is immature NK cells. Don't worry about that population. Okay. So, you have any doubts?
So when
With respect-
checking with side scatter and CD34, we select that final J population, that final
J population.
uh, this J
This
population.
population. This population. So you want to put it in side scatter CD34.
So usually we do like that.
No, yeah, you need to do I never do with J. I completely put the T cell population. I told you like any T cell population. Okay, so the T cell gate is here, right? B. So I'll put B here and I check with side scatter versus CD34. I do this way because any population which is expressing CD34, I'll gate it, okay, and then I'll check it. Or if you want, you can also do very safe by putting J. Then it is very clear because you are going with cells which are expressing cyto CD3. So that also can be done. Yeah. So if any population is expressing positivity, it is disease. Or you can put this as I did. You just put the entire T cells, gate all the CD34 positive population. Make sure it is not T cells. It is either myeloid blast or any negative or T cell markers. In case if it is CD34, very rare. Even I don't see if it is CD34 positive and 7 bright, okay, and it is cyto CD3 negative. It could be ETPAL, correct? So that is the reason why I used to check with the complete T cell population and not just the J population expressing cyto CD3. If it is a ETP-ALL, then it can express 34. You know that ETP-ALL can express stem cell marker. Now, if I put B and this population is positive for 34, once I get this population and I'm checking with all other markers, it's like 1656 or CD, I mean, is it showing myeloid blast? Is it myeloid blast or something which is negative for CD7? So once I get this population, I'll just check with CD7 and 45, right? So I'll just draw this as population. If I find any population which is 45 dim or negative and 7 bright, okay, we have some events here. So let me get that. So anyway, even something which I am getting like is really suspicious. Okay, so just get it and check is that really expressing CD34? Not really, but some amount of negative is coming in. Is it really something? It is cyto CD3 negative. Yeah, it is somewhat surface CD3 dim, but again, this I'll take into consideration when if it is in case of ETP-ALL. If it is not an ETP-ALL, then I will not consider this population, right? Because it is cyto CD3 completely negative. Say, for example, if this brown population is lying in between the negative and the positive population, that is, if it is cyto CD3 dim, the same brown population which I have highlighted, okay, then I'll consider that. But here it is completely negative, and for a TLL with cyto CD3 completely negative, okay. And if it is not ETP ALL at diagnostic point of view, then I'll be hesitant to call it as MRD. It should be some other population. And you can also check with the intensity of CD34, whether is it really positive. Okay, so if you find it is not very brightly positive, it is almost with that negative region. So I'll not be very happy to call that as MRD. Any other doubts? Should we see another case? Yeah, shall we go with the other case? Let's go with fourth case. I'll close this case so that Kaluza doesn't hang up. Right. Right. Okay. This is CD45. And then let's start with our regular gating. Site scatter versus CD7, which is my first plot, since 7 is my gating marker. There's a compensation issue. I'm just correcting it. Okay. Always try to use, and whenever you're finding something like this, a small cluster which is 7 right, it is likely to be a MADI. Okay, because you don't find NK cells detached from the normal population. So let's check it out. So as I said, always try to take a bit of CD negative population into your gate, because always be empirical in your initial gates. Okay. Now surface CD3 by versus Cyto CD3. Sorry, excuse me. CD7. Okay. So I'll just put the same population. Now I'm finding multiple populations. One is CD3 positive and 7 moderate positive. The other population CD3 positive and 7 bright positive. And there's one more cluster which is CD3 dim and CD7 moderate. So let's start taking everything. So I draw a gate like this so that I include all the populations into it. Now, so as I'm doing this, I'm trying to eliminate a bit of mature T cells so that it doesn't interfere in my assay. So I'm just excluding the population and focusing on this population, but I'll come back to this population sometime later. Now let's exclude the NK cell population and also check any non-T cell population expressing CD7. So once if I gate that, I can see there is not much of NK cells in this case as the last case.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please.
I am confused about the marker CD16 plus 56. Does it mean
Mhm.
either of the marker is positive in that?
Yes. No. See, I am here. There is something called antibody duplexing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have duplexing. A set of NK cells, some of them can express 16, some of them can express 56.
So it
Okay.
means if either is positive, then it is
Yes,
positive.
I'm not bothered about it. Okay, so either of them, if it is positive, it will get signal in the P channel, and I'm excluding them.
Okay. Okay.
Right. We'll be able to correct it. Right. Now let's go. So the plan is 1656 versus Cyto CD3. So as I said, I'm not finding much of NK cells in this case. But what I do find is two populations. One is negative for 56 and Cyto CD3, and other is positive for Cyto CD3 and negative for 56. So as I said, I'm more interested in this population because Cyto CD3 is a very specific marker for T cells, and the population which I'm highlighting in red, okay, is likely T cell population. Okay. But I'm also interested in this population because it is expressing some TIM CD3. That Cyto CD3 is negative. Something unique. Let me check that out. So we'll come back to that. So once this is gated, now check for 5 expression with CD38. Okay. So you're finding 1, 2, and 3 population here. One is 5 positive and 38 negative, which could be likely normal T cells. And you're finding here a population which is slightly dimmer for CD5 compared to this, and it is positive for 38. And I'm finding another population which is negative for 38, and CD5 is dimmer. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take these two populations initially. But as I said, we'll be coming back to this other population which we have excluded. Right. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll just try to draw a gate for this also. And once I'm gating this population, you can see that it is part of that. It is part of that cluster. So that could be normal T cells, as we thought. But you see this violet color population, which I've highlighted, it is falling somewhat away from this cluster. Okay, so that is raising a further suspicion. So now let's go for the next plot. So CD45 versus CD7. So if I see the C population, so I'm dropping the complete population which is expressing cyto CD3. You can find that this particular cluster is 7 bright. Okay, what you can do, you can just check with singlet gate. Is it really bright? Yes, it is bright because your T cell ends here, but this particular population is beyond that. And it is not NK cells because it is not expressing 16 or 56. Okay, whereas this particular population, excuse me, whereas the other population here, it is showing bright CD45 and moderate CD7, which could be likely normal T cells. So we'll get this. And you can get this population. Okay, now we need to check whether any restrictions with 4 and 8. 4 and 8 is the last plot which you should use. After refining the populations, finally you need to check with 4 and 8. You should not initially use 4 and 8. Okay. Okay, that's 5, right? Right, now let's check one by one with 4 and 8. Let's drop the most suspicious population, which is J population. So once I put J, you can see that it is completely, so you can see that it is variable for CD4 and it is negative or dim for CD8. Okay, so that is an unusual pattern. Okay, if it is normal, let me put G for you. This is normal pattern. Okay, this is normal pattern where you can find some 4 population, some 8 population, and some double negative population. Okay, but here you find this particular population which is completely negative for 8 or slightly dim negative for 8, and it is 4 variable. So that particular pattern of 4 positive, double negative, 8 positive, and if in case as a dim 8 is not there. Okay, where rather you find a variable CD4. So this is definitely disease. Okay, this is definitely disease. So this is done. So this is population which is MRD. Okay. Now, before you go for other plots, make sure you see side scatter CD34. So there's nothing like a positive population. It's a very poor, lot of background signal. I don't know why is that. So, and the other plot, surface CD3 versus, before that I need to put the A population. Only on T cells, okay? So surface CD3 versus cyto CD3. Okay. Okay, now coming to the point, what thing was raised. Now, if this plot is not helping in this case, this plot, if I used only CD3 versus cyto CD3, the population which I would have gated would be only this much. That too, it is sticking to the population, but still, if I want to take, I would take only this population, right? That could lead to false interpretation of MRD or decreased MRD percentage. Okay, so that is why I don't take, but still I would love to see finally whether if any population is hanging here. Are you getting this, doctor? With respect to a question versus, like the initial plot of surface CD3 versus cyto CD3, the population, the problem with that is when the population is expressing CD3, as in this case, like mature TALL, we may miss it.
True that.
Yeah, so that is one. Now, as I said, you go back to your plots. Okay, now this is bright CD7, so it is fine. And whenever you found an MRD and it is sticking to the border of your gates, not only in TALL, any diagnostic or MRD, you are getting one population which is of interest, and you have finished. That is your residual disease, or that is your blast, or so and so. And you go back and see if it is sticking to the gate border, then you need to open up the gate. Okay, then you can open up the gate. If this particular population is increasing, then there is some amount of population left over. But here it's not the case, so I'm not bothered about it. So this is the MRD, and then you can just with forward scatter and side scatter to make sure you. There's also some 8 positive population, which is some normal. So let's get and see whether is it a part of MRD or it is a population spilling into the MRD. You can find that is encroaching into the MRD gate from this particular population. So I may happily eliminate that. I don't feel that's an MRD population. Okay, so you can get only this population. Similarly, you can check with all other markers and exclude all other population from this MRD. I'm just giving this red. I'll take out the previous red. Sorry. So now, this is a quite good MRD. You see the CD3. It's a case of mature TALL, and you have multiple LAIPs to confirm. First, and a strong LAIP would be CD45 in a dimmer location, as we are seeing here. And second is CD7 bright, so second LAIP. Third, CD3, is intact, so that will not serve as an LAIP for me. Then CD38 positivity is another LAIP, so 3 LAIPs are there. And finally, it is 8 negative, and the pattern with 4 and 8 is abnormal. Okay, it is more 8 dim to negative and 4 dim to negative and 8 negative. So these are LAP. It is negative for 34. And how much is the percentage? So I'm using the software, but more advisable is to calculate from the events. You can calculate with the software, which is around some 0.87%, but I prefer you to calculate manually. So check the number of events there, 13,888, and check the singlet events. So which is 1482873. So divide 13,888,00 divided by 1482873 will be your MID percentage. Okay. Right. So this is one MID positive case, very classic and typical case. So my point is, since CD7 is bright, this is seen very clearly, but some cases may be CD7 moderate and it can sit along with this population. So never ever exclude or sign out an MRD negative without analyzing the CD3 moderate positive population. There could be the MRD sitting with your normal T cells. Okay. Any doubts with this case?
So can you please show the CD4 and 8 graph again?
Sure, again, it I'll show. There's a bit of compensation. I need to correct it. Just a minute, give me a minute. Yeah, so 4 and 8. Meanwhile, I've noticed something. So there is some population of normal which have been included. You can find some population of MRD sitting in that area. So let me gate and check really is it MRD. Fairly okay. Right. Yeah. So this is 4 and 8. You want to say with the controls, then I'll just drop the T cells. Okay.
Yes,
Again,
sir.
the
So there
signal
is a single cluster which is occupying all the quadrants and it is not separated into different clusters.
you
So it
need
is
to
a
know, yeah, you need to know the patterns. Okay, so if you take a CD4, CD8, okay, I'll just draw a plot. Okay, so just assume that this is CD4, CD8. You need to foresee the pattern. You should find a population here. Okay, so without population, it's not coming fine. Just so sure. So you will find a population here which is CD4 positive. Okay, then you'll find a population here which is CD8 positive. Here it is very dim, but I don't expect that to be like that. I don't know. So a CD8 population, a small CD4 and CD8 double negative population. Okay, and there will be another dim CD8 alone population, which is NK cell, immature NK cell population. Okay, or NK cells. Okay, so this is the pattern. If you find a pattern something like what is there in the background, okay, so that is it's not fitting with any of these patterns. Okay, then it is a abnormal CD4 CD8 pattern, and that indicates that these are residual disease. Okay, and if anything you're finding here, that is also abnormal. Okay, so anywhere in the empty spaces if you are finding, it is really suspicious.
Okay, sir.
Okay, shall we go for one more case?
Yes.
Let's check this. I don't know what is the case. It's all taken some time back. So okay, done. Let's make it fast so that we can see all the cases. And let's start with let's get the entire CD7 positive population. Okay. Okay, then let's check with as surface CD3 versus CD7. Yes. Now, here with the contrast to the last cases, what you have seen, normally we do find a CD3 cluster and then some populations beneath, okay, which are negative for CD3. But you can see that there is a continuity from CD3 positive to the, I mean, CD3 is variable completely. Like there is CD3 positivity and this population without any separation continues up to CD3 negative. So that is really suspicious. Okay, with respect to the last two cases where we found there is a separate CD3 positive cluster and then some population which are CD3 negative. Whereas here you don't find that separation at all. Okay, the entire population is trailing down. That is really suspicious. So what we do, as we do, we take some dim CD3 positive population and CD7 positive population. Okay, again a very big population. Normally I don't draw a gate like this. Or I don't expect, I mean, like I don't want you all to also draw a gate like this. Don't do this because just excluding the complete surface CD3, don't do that. You also include some dim CD3 expressing population so that you can get the disease within that. Or if you're getting only this, then if the population is residual disease population is expressing CD3 in a dim fashion, which is very common, you may miss them. So always draw a gate like that so that you include some CD3 dim along with the CD3 negative population, which are CD7 positive. Right. Now, once this is done, let's exclude the NK cells and other non-T cells with cyto CD3 and 1656. Okay. So beautifully it separates into 4 population. So this is NK cells. These are non-T cells expressing CD7, and I find a subset of CD56 positive cells, and then a population which is 56 negative, 1656 negative, and cyto CD3 positive. And this is the population which I'm more interested on. Okay, so this is done. So now the next plot is 38 versus CD5. So this is a big MRT. Okay, now this is, as soon as I see this plot, I can see that this is completely abnormal because CD5 is not there. Okay, this particular population is definitely abnormal because it is expressing CD38 and it is negative for 5. Okay, so this is definitely an abnormal population. Now, but just go with the process of gating. So let's check with CD7 versus CD45. So you can see that particular population is CD7 is not bright, it is moderate, but the complete population is CD45 downregulated. Right? You can see the complete population is downregulated. So again, that is 45. So I can easily get out that population. So this is completely a disease, right? Now let's finally check out this population with 4 and 8. Okay. Now you see this is normal T cells, this is normal CD8, and you find one single cluster, a dense cluster, okay, which is double negative, or it is CD8 dim to negative. Okay, this cannot be NK cells because you almost have you have a single big cluster. You will not have NK cells coming in such a big cluster. Okay, so this is definitely abnormal. So if you find small number of events in this pattern, then it is really suspicious whether it is NK cells. But again, you need to go back and see your CD45. Now CD45 in this case is dimmer, and your immature NK cells does not show that pattern. Okay, you see the normal T cells here. This is CD45 dim. If it is NK cells, it should fall in the CD45 brighter region. Okay, and you don't find NK cells in this big cluster or this high in number. So it is less likely to be NK cells. Okay, now you also check the same T cells for CD34 before you close up. I'm not finding any population here which is CD34 positive. These are normal myeloid blasts. I don't find any T cells, colored events here. So that is not helping me. You can check with surface CD3 and cyto CD3. So this is again a problem. Like once if you get only, you will measure half of the MRD, the other MRD will be left over when you're using a cyto CD3 versus surface CD3 plot. Okay. Now, we'll go back and let's calculate. Now, once if you see something like this is what I told you during the last case. When you find MRD is being cut by some of your gates, then open it up. Now you will get the exact MRD. Getting it? So whenever you're finished with your MRD and you're given a color to it, go back and see is any gate cutting them. Okay, now you can find some amount of normal 8 positive cells are there. You can check whether it is normal or is that a subset of disease. Just gate them. Give a color. So that population is falling in the border of the gate. So whenever if you find any population falling in the border, then they are not disease. They are something encroaching into the gate what you have drawn. Normal T cells coming into the gate what you have drawn. So you can ignore them. Yeah. So So this is the population which I'm interested on. So I'll just draw and take only the disease population. Even that particular population expressing bright CD8 or moderate CD8 is also 45 bright. So I'm sure like it is normal T cells. Okay. Right. So the final disease percentage is a huge. This is a quite huge MRD. 8.89. This doesn't even quantify for an MRD, but still to start with for beginners this is a very good case. Okay. It's something.
Sir, phenotype wise, it's only 45 dimness which discriminated from that immature TNK, na?
Immature TNK, which is the CD45. Yes, true. Yes, CD45. But as I said, you don't find this big population of NK in this
the
context.
way that it is expanded is.
Yeah, if it is a smaller population, say if it is somewhere like 0.05 or something like 0.03 or something, then yeah, that becomes an headache, and only 45 can come for the rescue.
Okay.
True.
Thank you.
So this is one case. So I don't want to waste much time in this case because it's not such a great case. I don't know how it came into, but 8.84 to start with is a good case for anyone who wants to start MRD. It's fine. I was afraid like the Kaluza has got struck. Okay, now let's go for the other case. So you know the sequence of gating now. So let's the gate be like this so that we can go faster with the analysis. Right. So singlets. Right. So A is done. So let's check with surface CD3 versus CD7 and exclude some amount of mature T cells, possible mature T cells. So this is again an abnormal pattern. You find a mature T cell cluster, even though there is a break between the CD3 positive population and CD3 negative population. I'm finding a cluster of cells which are CD3 dim and 7 quite bright. This is abnormal. Okay, but anyhow, we'll just go as per our regular pattern gating analysis. So I'm taking all CD3 dim population and CD7 positive population. What I'll do, I'll go for the more specific marker for T cells, which is cyto CD3 versus CD56. Okay. So once I'm putting in this plot, I can find, as usual, 4 populations, which is, again, I'm telling you, don't exclude this population. If it is 56 expressing blast in the baseline, include this into your analysis. Okay. So, but here I'm just getting this. And similarly, when the case is an ETP-ALL or if the case was expressing a dim cyto CD3, include this population also. Okay, you can expand this gate to this area. Okay, try to include that. Or I'll just include, let's see what happens. What difficulty I'm encountering, let me check. So this is gated, this is done. Now let's start with multiple combinations to check whether any LAP is there. CD38. So I intentionally included some populations which are cyto CD3 negative. And CD5. So I'm finding almost like 4 populations. One is normal CD5 expressing population, 38 negative, which is likely to be my normal T cells. I'm not worried about that. I'm more interested on the population which is expressing CD38 and dim CD5. Okay. Okay. This population, I'm not worried because this should be likely 5 negative, 38 negative. It should be some non-T cell population expressing CD7. And in fact, you can see that this, you can just check and see if it is expressing cyto CD3 also in it. Yeah, so or we can include that population also. Always be very generous with your gates, initial gates. Once you detect the population, then you can purify with subsequent gates. So don't exclude the MRD by initial gates, drawing very tight gates. Then it becomes very bad. Okay. Now E is done. So let me drop E here and check with CD7 versus CD45 whether it is helping. Okay, this is E, right? So I'm finding almost like three populations here. One is CD7 bright and CD45 also bright. And another population is CD7 moderate and CD45 bright. See, when you are like you want to call whether CD47 is moderate in this, always check with the singlet background. So yeah, it is CD7 moderate and this is bright. And there is also another population which is CD45 dim and CD7 dim population. So this is because I've opened up the cyto-CD3 gate to include some cyto-CD3 negative population. So once if I'm getting that, you can find the predominant population is in this area. So I'm very sure like this could be normal myeloid blast expressing CD7 or some PDCs or whatever. I'm not interested in this. In case if this particular population is falling in this area, then I would open up this gate and include that. You're getting my point? If this particular population, if it is falling in this area, okay, if this red is falling in this area, then what I'll do, I'll open up this gate. Because the myeloid blast cannot express bright CD7. PDCs cannot express very bright CD7. So if it is expressing bright CD7, then I'll open up this gate and this could be some ETP-ALL blast where it is expressing 7 and it is negative for cyto-CD3. But here it is dim CD7 and I'm not worried about that. So now let's analyze these two populations. One, this population which I'm getting. Okay, and the other population which is CD7, CD7 moderate and CD45 moderate. Okay. So finally you check with 4 and 8. And you check the red population. See, this is abnormal pattern. Though you are finding a CD4 positive population and CD8 population, CD8 positive population, you're finding predominant of them being C4 and 8 double negative. You can't have this pattern. Okay. If you have CD4 in this percentage, for example, I'll just talk in the terms of gated population, right? So in this plot, the percentage gated of CD4 is 3.49, and this is okay 6.52, and you see this population, which is 89. This is unusual. You can't get this because you know that the 4-8 population predominates, second CD4 predominates, and finally double negative. You can't have this pattern. Okay, where an expanded double negative population is there. So this is abnormal. If you want, you can just enlarge these events. You can see that that is encroaching from the normal T cells. Okay, even you can enlarge this and you can see even that is coming, falling in the border of the gate. So that is not MRD, and they're all normal T cells coming into the MRD gate. And so I repeat, if you find a pattern, though this is normal pattern where you're getting CD8 positive, CD4 positive, and a double negative population, it also important to see the distribution of such populations. For example, if the events in this 4 is around how much? It's around 271 events, and this is around 445 events. So now this is 445 events, and that is 271 events. Then I expect here some 50 events. Okay, normal. If it is normal, it should be around 50 events. But here you see the number of events, it's way beyond all these populations, 6,307. Okay, so this is abnormal pattern. So never check with the population, but also check with the density of that population. Okay, so here this is definitely abnormal. So this is MRD. Okay, I'm excluding these populations because if as I gate and enlarge them, they are falling in the border of this gate. So it is normal T cells coming into the MRD gate. So before doing that, let me check with this J population. Are they really normal? You see the normal pattern of J here. You find more CD8, CD4, and then double negative. Okay. Even the double negative slightly higher. So some MRD population may also fall into this gate. So that is also a possibility. Okay. So So this is gated. Let me give a black color to this and check with the percentage. It's for 0.39% MRD. So try to open up the gates and then we can purify. You can see that this is beautifully positive. See, this is the pattern what I told you. A dim CD3 positive and a negative CD3 positive population. So it's falling as a two subset. One subset is cyto CD3, means surface CD3 dim, and one subset is surface CD3 negative. Okay, so you can still clean up the population to find the exact MRD. So CD7, how is it 45? 45, is it moderate or bright? Where is the 48? CD45 is bright. So CD45 will not act as an LAP here. Okay, so CD45 will not help you. Now let's refine this with that previous CD3 versus CD7. I'll drop the black population. So you can remove this population, which is likely mature T cells. Now you can get this. All that as disease. 0.41%. Okay. Let's quickly see the LAPs, what this case is showing up. Say once you finish MRD, you open up the gate so that you get the exact population. Okay. Now, this is CD7, of course, bright. So that is first LAIP. Then it is a dim CD3 and negative CD3, whereas cyto CD3 is positive. Okay, so that is second LAIP. 38 is positive, that is third LAIP. 5, again, it is like slightly dim, or some people may call it moderate, but slightly dimmer than this population. So I don't know whether to take it as an LAP, but fine. And it is double negative. So that is the fourth LAP. So MRD is detected at 0.42%. If you want, you can calculate with the number of MRD events and singlet events. Okay, so that should be around 0.4%. Right? Any doubts? Any doubts? You can ask any doubts. So what I would suggest, those who are not doing MRD, try to take some normal samples. If you have the markers with the panel, stain them, square them, and just study with this gating protocols. See how many events are suspicious for you. Okay, any of that I'll be discussing on the next week regarding establishing a sensitivity for MRD assay. So all this limit of blank, limit of detection, and limit of quantification will come there. But you can just try, just practice yourself. And the other way to learn MRD is spiking. So you take some normal samples, and you may get some ITP sample or a staging marrow. And similarly, you would have got a leukemic sample. So just spike some leukemic cells into the normal marrow and then acquire, stain it and acquire, and try to isolate that disease population what you spiked. Okay, spike it in very lower quantity so that it becomes more challenging. Or if you spike more volume, then it becomes easy, like diagnostic. So that is also you can try. Any doubts? MRD is easy. TMRD is relatively easy. If you want me to, as I said yesterday, TMRD is the easiest of all MRDs. Of course, myeloma is also easy, but TMRD, myeloma MRD is relatively easy, followed by BMRD and finally AML MRD. Among the MRDs which are routinely asked. I'm not bringing CLL MRD notes. So no doubts. So clear. So if you have any doubts, just ping me a message. And thank you all. We'll see next week with myeloma MRD. Or if you want any other topic which has to be touched upon, or any points which any area which you want to want me to take, you please message me. Okay, because myeloma is not that tough. I can handle it in some time, so I can add something what you wish, but it should be a uniform request from all of you, like not one or two. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care. Good night.
Good night, sir. Sir, please share that article, na TMRD.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do it now. I'll do it now.
Thank you,
That
sir.
article is very good. I'll share it now. Yeah. I'll do it.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.